to lay down anyone. So yeah, it's in that sense it was a good time. But
Good. But you come. Where's your hometown actually?
oh, my hometown it's in France. I'm from Bordeaux. I'm from
Bordeaux. Okay.
Bordeaux, southwest of France.
Bordeaux.
Place.
I have been there when
Okay.
I was a young person. When I was 18 years old,
Oh my
our
God.
our rugby team played the Bordeaux rugby team as well.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh, so you are a rugby fan?
I am a rugby man. Yeah.
Oh, great. Me too.
Oh, you play?
Yeah, but
Okay.
all
Sorry
right.
guys. Yeah, I'm just
Sure.
gonna mute everyone and also shut your video. And while we wait for people to come in on Zoom, and then it's on live now on YouTube as well. And then once we start, I'll just ask everyone to start again.
Sure.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Just waiting a few minutes more for some more people to trickle in. And we are live on YouTube. And for those of you on YouTube, you can ask your questions on the chat box and we'll be able to receive it. Those on Zoom, you can still, well, you have the Q&A option at the bottom and you can ask us questions anytime. All right. Now the session is recorded. This is for the speakers. Yep. Okay. Yeah, sure. You can share your slides. No problem. Okay. Okay. I think we could go on right now. Welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Tuesday Talk Live by Place Borneo. As you can see, we've changed the time a bit this time. So we're not in the morning. We're at 7 o'clock at night here, Malaysian time. And this is 1 p.m., I think, Sweden time, if I'm not mistaken. And well, that's one of the reasons why we changed the time to suit Molood's time. And also, a lot of you guys are back at work. And we've received some feedback saying that 10 a.m. could be a busy time, a lot of meetings, and everyone's scrambling to get back to work right now after the lockdown. Now, for those new one, my name is Mona Abdul Manap. I'll be your host. And the Tuesday Talk Live is a fortnightly talk that we do. It's a free talk for everyone. It's a platform for you to share ideas, exchange knowledge, information, and most of all, solutions. Right now, we're in well, not so good times, I would say. I wouldn't say it's really, really bad, but it could get better. And we could do with a lot of solutions along the way and something to get us started on our recovery plan. And today is, I think the topic today is very, very relevant. It's work from home done right. All of us were thrown into working from home or remote working the past few months in Malaysia. And I think in some countries, you guys are still working from home. But there are ways to actually do it right and being productive while being at home. So today we're going to talk about that. And working from home or remote working, there are different approaches to different industries, different businesses, and even different people with different personalities. So we have to cater to those, well, different things that they're not the same for everyone. So today we're going to talk about that. And we have a very, very special speaker today, the queen of remote working herself, Molood, Miss Molood Ceccarelli, all the way from Sweden. She is the remote work expert and agile coach. And she was featured recently on Forbes, and that's how we actually found out about her. It was an article on remote working, obviously. And well, that's the reason why she's considered the queen of remote work. She knows all about it, and she can share with us on how to do it right. She founded Remote Forever, which is a company that helps businesses how to have your team's remote work or how to implement remote working or work from home in your operations. Next one, we've got Tristan Budilomini. I hope I got your name right, Tristan. Yep, he's the general manager of the Sabah International Convention Center with 30 years in the hospitality industry with ACO groups and I think other groups as well. And in different continents, not just different countries, but different continents working. So he's got a whole lot of experience to share with us. Interestingly, because he's in the hospitality industry, in the service line, where they thrive on human interaction, remote working is something that he feels probably not so good for the hospitality industry. So we'll talk about that later. And we have Simon Benjamin, Assistant Honorary General Secretary of the Malaysian Institute of Human Resource Management. He's been in the HR line or in people management for the past 25 years. So that's a lot of people management there, a lot of dealing with different people, different teams. And he mentioned that the past 10 years, they've actually experienced people requesting for remote work, especially from mothers who actually still want to be in the workforce, but also want to be with their family. And that's very interesting. Now we've got a lot of other people who are not mothers who are, well, just you and I, and we want to do remote working also because we want to be at home more often. So as usual, we'll start with the speakers having a bit of introduction or summary of what they're going to talk about today. And I'll start with Molood. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mana, for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here. You gave a very good introduction to who I am and where I come from. So I do not come from the hospitality background, but I have a very strong passion for organizing events. I think that the first event I ever organized, according to my parents, is when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
So I've been bringing people together since I was a kid, and that is a passion of mine. But where I come from into this panel discussion is my background in remote working. So I work in IT and software development, and I help organizations and leaders within those organizations to transform to agile ways of working. And I specifically work with companies that are distributed. So this is the work that I've been doing for the past decade, and more concretely for the past 4 years, which is when I founded Remote Forever with an event. Remote Forever itself was created with an event that I took upon the challenge to prove to the world that events can be actually done online. And I think that is the reason why it took off, because people from many different parts of the world could attend. And I hope that I can bring my own unique perspective to this debate, and I look forward to learning as much as I teach.
All right, thanks, Molood. I think you were ahead of your time by having a virtual event, and now everyone's like scrambling to go into virtual events. Your event was, I think, the virtual remote working conference, I think gathering more than 10,000 people every year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. So the first edition happened in 2016, and this year will be the 4th time we run that event.
Wow, way ahead of your time. All right, the next one we'll have Tristan. Perhaps you want to share a bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this nice webinar. Working from home, there is an acronym now, WFH. It shows that it's getting very, very trendy. However, for me, in my industry, working from home has not been a pleasant experience, because working from home means that there is no job, there is no business. So it was a forced working from home during the past 2 months. I would rather talk about working from remote and to connect with my industry. I think past 2 months have shown that there is a new trend in my industry, and to go along with Molood expertise, in my industry, we are more talking about virtual events, helping each other, helping different people to connect together. And the events industry will have to readjust, adapt itself in order to come up with what we call the hybrid events, mixing people in a room and connecting with other people at the other part of the world. You know, together with this new trend of working from home or working from remote, there is a new trend is avoiding long distance traveling. And in that sense, all this goes together and is going to create a new way of working. So in my industry, we are heading to that direction.
Okay, is that it? Yep. Thank you, Tristan. I think it would be interesting to go more into how actually remote working could work for the hospitality industry, perhaps in a different way. I see you smirking there, but we'll go into that later. Okay, Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for inviting me to say something here, and it's good to be here. I'm basically a human resource man for the last 25 to 27 years, and started from hiring to firing to trade unions to succession planning, and it's all about people, and people are really great. And just to touch on this remote working at home, I got into I I call it a blessing actually when this COVID thing came, because I was forced to work from home. Initially, there was a lot of struggle. You know, you can't see people. You see them on the websites. You see them up in the computers. But eventually, it got a lot of things done. We could get things done more easily, right? But it's just a matter of hype, or everybody gets into it. And this will be the trend in the future. HR, yes, we are also outsourcing HR, and we are also moving HR into IT, but somehow the human touch still must prevail. That's where engagement and people and employee relations, these are the areas that still needs people touch. But technology is also helping us as we are going along. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, before that, Simon, maybe you want to lower your camera a bit because we can only see your head, and yeah, we can't see your shoulders. That's better. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about how some, well, actually 10 years, I think 20 years back, people were actually wanting to work from home, but only certain groups of the society, community, working mothers, they would want to work from home because they want to be with their babies, but they don't want to miss out, in the working life, in the workforce. So I think, Molood, could you answer this first? How has working from home developed, or working remotely developed throughout the years, and now it's become a thing? Before this, how has it been?
I think that in different industries, the development has been different. So in the computer industry, in the 80s, people were coding and they were communicating remotely. There were open source projects, there were forums where people from all around the world would communicate together to create a product together, correct? But this hasn't been the case in many, many other industries. So over the years, I think all the way through like the development of the internet, we have seen a progression in how people prefer to work remotely. And I think that the main driver for that has been the seek of freedom and flexibility. So as you said, for a lot of women in the world, it has been the ability to stay more time at home with their kids, especially in countries where they don't get parental leave or paid parental leave, to be with their family. This has been a big drive in like half of the population, that's mostly women, but also in men. You can see that same development happening. And I think the different ages also play a role in this. So the millennials were the pioneers of working remotely in a sense, although in the IT, as I said, a generation before that were already working remotely. So when you look at all the different trends in different industries, you see that internet has empowered people to communicate across the world, across the globe. So you don't have to sit at your home to work, right? You don't have to go to an office to work. As long as you have access to internet and your job is knowledge work, you're able to communicate with your colleagues. What we haven't mastered in the world is remote communication done effectively. And that's where we're struggling. That's where industries like event management that has just joined this movement is struggling, because we're trying to bring the old habits of communication into this new way of working together.
Okay, I know this is dangerous grounds. We're going into generational gaps. So there are some articles that says that, the baby boomers, they would want to work from home, but the millennials, or the zillennials, they call it, those are the people who probably want to go back to the office because, well, they want to socialize, or they just don't want to spend too much time at home. So is there such a thing as a difference in terms of age as to whether you prefer to work from home or any other place, remote working or not? Molood, do you have any take on this?
I don't think there is a preference that is gendered or depending on the age or nationality or anything like that. I really think it's a personal choice that many people are choosing to work remotely. And if we learn how to do this effectively, if we learn how to generate good products and good services for other people, through this remote collaboration, I really don't think it has limitations that are generalized in that sense.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Tristan, you wanted to add something.
Well, I think it's also depending on why we would differentiate between generation. Baby boomer are people who have already reached a certain level of income. They are established. They have houses, or they have comfortable apartment where working at home from home is feasible, probably more feasible from someone who is just starting his career, who has not necessarily reached that level of comfort or income, is living in a small studio, and working from home in a studio day after day might be a bit stressful.
Yep.
And this is why I believe many of these young generation are not yet ready for working from home and are happy to meet their colleagues in their business unit.
Absolutely.
This could be one of the interpretation. I also notice looking at the news in Europe, and Molood, you might confirm this. There is a willingness to return to nature and escape from the city. I can notice that in France, talking with retail agencies, there is a high demand for renting houses in the periphery of big city. People want to not only work from home, but they want to return to a certain quality of life, which working from home will allow them to do.
That's an interesting take, and I think that sort of explains why there could be generational gaps, but I do believe it is still a very personal reason why you prefer to work from home or not. It's not just your age. I don't know, Simon, do you have any take with all your experience in people management? How has it been for you? Wait, let me unmute you. You want to unmute yourself, Simon?
Yep, yes, yeah. I think the trend here in the Asian countries, we have more of the young people wanting to work from home. Why? Because the hustle and bustle of coming to work at 9 o'clock, fixed times, fixed compliances. Some of them would rather work from the home, or some of them will work on alternate days. Okay. But we find that young people want to finish their work pretty fast and go into the city and enjoy. They want to go into the city and enjoy themselves. So they want work to be fast. They want flexibility. They want different work environments. And this is also a trend. So age factor, I think there's a very strong acceptance among baby boomers. I'm one of them. So to actually accept, look, we are getting ready for change. And that's why I said the COVID was actually quite a blessing, because it made us change. It made us realize, hey, we got to change. If not for the internet, how would we be communicating, And we were able to do that. So that's the time I had a chance to go and talk to all my families all over the world. And thanks for working at home. And we had fixed hours of working. The other hours for ourselves. So we didn't have to get ironing the clothes, getting things done, and getting ready to work. We were just at home with our coffee and working. Oh, that was fine. That was fine.
Yeah, that's something I appreciated, not having to iron your clothes every day or getting ready early in the morning just to rush to work. Yeah, so that was good. Okay, so yeah, Tristan, I think you brought up a very interesting point. A lot of people are going back to nature or trying to live closer to nature, and I think remote working could be something that would allow them to do that. Obviously, not for everyone and not for every industry, not for every business. Depends on what you do and whether or not you can totally work remotely and you can travel around the world whenever you want. So we've got these digital nomads, they call them, who travel literally their whole lives and still work and still sustain themselves. I think I'm not sure about in the Asian market whether or not people are actually going back to nature. Well, we obviously live very close to nature as it
Nature,
is.
yeah.
So we don't have that urge
We
to
have
go
that
back to
around
nature.
here.
Yeah, because just behind our house is a jungle already. You know, just a 30 minutes drive, we can go trekking in virgin rainforest. So that's something interesting. It's a difference, I think, in the European setting and in the Asian setting. Now, we've been thrown into this, and a lot of employers, a lot of organizations were thrown into this and forced to have teams working remotely or working from home. Could this be a new work format? And now that they've experienced that they could be benefits and they have understood a little bit about how to handle remote work, do you think this could be a new trend moving forward after COVID, post-COVID? Molood, what do you see in the trends for this one?
I can actually share some data with you. I don't have
Yeah,
to give my opinion. There are
sure.
surveys that have been done. There are about 97% of IT companies or companies that have some sort of IT development that have said that they are agile, which means they're somewhat trying to be responsive and flexible in their ways of working. Out of those who were forced to work remotely, 74% of their CFOs have decided to keep their temporarily remote positions as permanently remote after COVID. That's a huge number. That's almost like 3 out of 4. So I think, sure, there is the trend. The trend is definitely moving that way. But are we as human beings upgrading our skill set and our mindset to be able to work this way? I think we have a long way to learn that, which is also why I think as soon as the restrictions are over, there will be a rush for going back to the office. And at the same time, there will be those who have found a balance from working from home or working from anywhere, really, because I make a difference between remote work and work from home during a crisis. There is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I think there will be conflicts that will happen between those who have found their ways, who have mastered the skills, and those who haven't. So yeah, technologically, we're going there. Humanly, we have a long way.
Mm. And Simon, do you guys have any, of this data in terms of the Malaysian market or maybe the Asian? I'm not sure where the survey was done, Molood, that you got the figures, but I'm guessing that it's probably
It was
closer.
a Gartner survey, so I think it was mostly done in the US actually. But since they have studied companies that went on lockdowns, I'm assuming there were some European ones as well, because the US didn't really go into lockdown.
Yeah, yeah, we could see that.
Yeah.
And MIHRM, did you guys get any
Yes,
sort of indication?
we also affiliated with the World HR Organization and also with the International Labour Organization. Well, yes, there is a trend. Now, come 2 years ago, the advent of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 that came into the country got us all excited, but got us all fearful because we thought with digitalization, people are going to lose jobs. That's one thing that we thought of. But the government also aided and gave a lot of tax concessions, gave a lot of grants for starting to digitalize. And one of the things, as I was mentioning the other time, the impact was more to the women folk who were staying at home and could not come to work. So they benefited. And while this process was going on, came the COVID 4.0, the COVID, and then when this COVID thing came, people who had actually started digitalization used whatever online they had and made it happen during COVID. So it was very helpful. So thanks to the realization of IR 4.0, and it has created a lot of awareness. I was in Germany and I went to visit my son who's studying there, and he's got a talking house. And he gets into the house, a lady's voice greets him. And then the lady's voice also tells him there's coffee that's ready. So I got worried. I thought he had a girlfriend. He didn't tell me that. And then I said, hey, what's going on? oh, it said this is my IT, or this is my artificial intelligence. So, but I couldn't cope with that. So I told him, please off it off. I'm not sure I'm here to offer off. When I go back to Malaysia, then you use them back again. So, but they are comfortable with that. He didn't even have to go and buy his groceries. His fridge has been designed to say what is short, and then the fridge sends an email to the grocery shop. It comes back and just scans his card, and he gets his food. So he's fine, and he studies at home most of the time. He only goes to the university maybe once in a week. So he's doing remotely at home, and he's fine. It was a bit scary for me in the beginning, but got used to it. Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And with well, if the trend is going in that direction, and I'm pretty sure a lot of companies are exploring how this could work for them. One is also probably to reduce space usage, and maybe they don't have to rent offices in future. They can just meet in a cafe, you know, or some businesses can do that. Obviously not a venue like yours, SICC, Tristan. And well, for those who are exploring this, how do you see this happening? Would this be would the teams be more productive, or would it be the same, or would it be less productive than before? And how do we measure productivity for teams who are working remotely? Anyone has to take? Molood, maybe you have something to say about this.
I'd like to hear Tristan talk about it since he has a venue.
Yeah.
Well, a few things I can say on that. I know not only from my personal industry. I can share with you the experience of my elder son, who is in his early 30s, and he works in Dubai for an aerospace company. As you all know, Dubai was also locked down, and they had to work from home. And in his case, he mentioned to me that he's not in a hurry to go back to his office. He's very comfortable to work from home, and in terms of efficiency and productivity, he has remained as productive as he was before. And to the extent that most of the people in his business unit are feeling the same. And this company is thinking of reducing their office space and to continue with this trend of working from home because it suits very well to their industry. And they have noticed that productivity was still as good as before, but it needs some discipline, and it needs regular meeting, it needs regular follow-up. But it has brought a different way of working to them, a different comfort in their work. To that extent, it has maintained productivity. So for some industry, it's perfect. Now, talking about my own industry, well, working from home. During the two months of our lockdown, no, we were not productive at all, because as I mentioned in my introduction, it's a very bad memory, because for us, working from home means that there is no business. There is working from home in the hospitality. There is nothing to do. I mean, not much, except for some of my sales team, which I was connecting with on Zoom meeting on a weekly basis. The productivity has been zero. It's to me, working from home is a nonsense. It's something that I cannot conceive.
I'd like to elaborate a little bit on that, Tristan.
Yes,
because
please.
I think that the way that you're describing this, you're comparing lockdown, which means people are not allowed to gather.
Yes. Yeah.
To working from home, and they're not necessarily the same thing. Working from home can actually allow people in your team to collaborate, to put an event together and then the customers would come to the events, to the venue, and then you would have business. So that's a big difference between dealing with the crisis that we have all been dealing with compared to the freedom of working remotely. So I totally understand your perspective that lockdown has stopped your business, but I do not accept that you say it's remote work that has stopped your business.
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, for in my industry, we need to meet our customer. You know, we need to engage with the customer because we are in the hospitality. You know, it's a service industry. So yes, some area of my team could eventually work from home, no doubt. But in a overall, the events venue and hotel cannot work from home. You need to meet the customer. You need to service them. A food and beverage manager need to be on site. He cannot deliver his job from home. That's a total nonsense. Yeah. You know, I give you an example, and you are in Sweden, and I know the culture, the Scandinavian culture, because I have worked for 2 years in Copenhagen. And working from home, I believe in Scandinavia is very well adapted, and they are very well advanced. They have a hedge on us. Already, I was working in Copenhagen in 2004. That was the trend. Working from home was already the trend. It's part of the culture because there is it's the culture. And one day I was running 5 hotels in Copenhagen, and one day one of my GM called for sick, and he called me and he said to me, I cannot come because I'm sick. So I say, fine. I mean, I hope you get well. And he say, I'm going to work from home. Well, I say, fine, but I don't think you'll be very efficient from home. You get well, get on track as soon as possible, but working from home for a hotel GM is not really the idea.
Perhaps I will also say a few things. I agree with Tristan because in the hotel industry, it is the personal touch. You need to engage with people. Say even if somebody wants to organize a wedding, it will be so, they want to see the hall, they want to feel, they want to touch the food, they want to know who's organizing. It may be difficult to actually work from the home to get all that done. You know? Yeah. And I had a chance to oversee the hotel while I was in the Sunway group. And it's all about people. It's all about people and touch. Maybe not as advanced as Scandinavian countries. I think Malaysia is in the trend of coming to this, or Asia. But I noticed after the COVID, employers are talking to their staffs. Look at reduced working hours, working from home, and then they're negotiating even their compensation packages. So it is a reality and it's taking a trend. I don't know how long before we'll fully be like Sweden, but the trend is already started. So people realize.
Please don't idealize Sweden or Scandinavia because it might seem like it's very advanced, but it's quite on par with the rest of the world. The technology is there. The culture is not there.
Oh, okay. So it's more of the young people doing it, working from home rather than the senior people. That's what I'm saying.
It's both. It's possible to work from home. That's what I'm saying. It's possible to do everything you do in your life over the internet. I do not need to exit my home ever if I choose to. I can get all the services. I can see a doctor remotely. I can get my medicine remotely. Probably if I need a surgery, I have to go to the hospital, but I think they're working on that. What I'm trying to say is everything that you need for a comfortable living, yes, you can have it in Scandinavia. You can get it online. What you can't have, though, is the ability to work good and well together. That's not yet part of the culture. That's something that we're still lacking. And at the same time, the majority of my clients or my company's clients have been in other countries in Europe or in the States or Canada. So Sweden itself is a contrast, even in my line of work. Even when I look at the trends, I see a disparity between the adoption of technology and the adoption of the work practices, the mindset practices that come with it. So what I like to maybe challenge you two who are on the panel and also all the people watching this is to think about two different means of communication that we have when we want to create anything at all. It can be an event like a wedding or a conference in your hotel, or it can be anything else. It could be a software product. When you want to create something together collaboratively, there are two means of communication. There is synchronous communication, which is something that happens in real time, which is I say something, you say something, I say something, he says something. You know, we all talk at the same time and generate ideas at the same time. Then there is a second means of communication that is asynchronous. And that means if I say something, you have the time to read it, to reflect on it, to absorb it, and then to respond on your own time. And then what we try to do when we work in co-located businesses, in co-located teams, like what Tristan was suggesting, you know, the GM in the hotel and all the staff and all of them, they work real time. That is the habit. That is the mental state that they operate from. They want everything to happen in real time. A person goes to someone, taps on their shoulder, asks a question, and gets the answer right there and then. What we haven't learned is how to communicate asynchronously effectively. And I think that is a shift that first and foremost needs to happen right here in ourselves before we can actually take it elsewhere. So you said you can't organize an event remotely. I'm the counter example. I was the wedding planner for my own wedding, and I actually did everything remotely. We even had guests remotely, which is a total like counter example. I did not need to see a venue in person, but I needed the person to show me the venue. And what he did was send me a movie. And or the food, you know, I did not need to taste the food because I wasn't picky, but if I need it, he could deliver it to my home so I could taste it. So there are several different layers of it that you can think about, that we can take things that we do right now synchronously and do them asynchronously. It's just that shift that we need to adapt. Which part of the work can be done asynchronously? Let's do it async. Which parts of it is impossible to do async? That part needs to be done synchronously. You can order food online, but you can't eat the food online. The food actually needs to be cooked by people at the premises and then be delivered to you, right?
Yeah.
So there are parts. I want to challenge you to think about
absolutely.
the different parts of the aspect at the work that you do.
I clearly understood what you say. I mean, the creation, a part of the creation of the event can be done remotely, but when it comes to the realization, it cannot be done remotely. I give you another example, which is not in my industry, and that relates to my daughter-in-law, who is a landscape designer. And she's also in Dubai with my son. And she is working from home because her job is creation. But the people who are going to realize and implement her creation cannot work from home. They have to be on site. So yes, there is, I understand what you say, there is two levels, and working from home suits perfectly for some type of industry in the creation, for instance, in the creativity and all this. But when it comes to realization, there's a gap.
And I think we don't have to actually look at it from the opposite angles, like totally working from home and totally not working from home or on site. So you could have a hybrid of both. A blend of both. Like what Molood said, there's some things that you have to be on site and some things that can be done remotely. And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to have everyone work from home or remotely, but we try to have them work from home maybe a bit more now than we did before. And maybe then they have more time to spend with their family and reduce social ills, you know, in our community. That could be something that we could aim for. And you mentioned, Molood, about the communication, asynchronized and synchronized communication. And someone mentioned on YouTube that communication is a key for remote working or working from home. So what are the skills that would be important to have if you wanted to be successful or productive in working from home or working remotely?
Okay, I'm going to mention a few, and I hope that the rest of you can just complete that list. I think the first and foremost the skill that we need is time management and self-discipline.
Yeah.
If we don't
Absolutely.
have that, we can't do that. You see, I'm wearing a suit. Why am I wearing a suit in my living room when I'm working? I never did that before this pandemic happened and I was forced to work from my home because I was working remotely, but I worked from other places. In fact, my favorite place to work from was hotel lobbies because they had the best coffee and the best service. But right now, one of the things that I have to do is to make sure that I wake up at a certain time, that I go to bed at a certain time, that I don't forget my exercise, that I eat well, that I actually dress up for work and I put myself in that mental state. So that's the discipline that I'm talking about. And then there is time management. One of the risks of working remotely is that we forget to separate life from work, and then our entire life becomes work, or we fall from the other side and we forget to actually spend big chunks of time to be productive and to work. So those are the main two skills that we need to master personally. And I would just want to stop talking so other people get some space too.
Simon, did you want to add something?
Yeah, but I can't imagine wearing my suit and tie and working from home. My wife would actually be looking at me rather odd. Yes, it has given me flexibility. It has given a time to ponder. But somehow, as you said, communication is the key. If we don't have that human touch, especially in the service industry, and remotely you are alone doing your own work, I somehow feel it dampens your association. In my line of work as HR, I need to meet. I need to see reactions. I need to see how people feel. Somebody sends me a WhatsApp. I answer back, but I still cannot measure the reaction. Yes, no, how does she feel? Or she giving me an answer. So somehow it's the human touch must not be ignored. Yes, I've got everything convenient. Everything is you. It's all about me. What about people? People that are around you, you know?
Well, we're not talking about completely not coming out of your house, because we're talking about the crisis, the pandemic, which was what happened in the last 2 months. But when we talk about remote working or working from home after this, you were still going to go out and meet your team members. Maybe once in a week you have a meeting, or more often than that. So I think for Malaysians, at least, I can speak on behalf, I think we're still in that crisis mentality or mode. So when we talk about work from home, we think that we're all cooped up at home when we can't go out because of the virus. So I think we've got to shift out of that and see that we can actually meet people. You can meet with your staff members, your team members.
Sure.
Kristen, have you got anything to say about this? Any skills you need for working from home?
I totally agree. I mean, discipline is key. I don't like to wear a suit, and you see I'm not wearing a suit. But it depends. It depends on everyone. The most important is discipline, and to fix yourself a timing and stick to it. And also I think allow yourself to walk out from your house and walk in the street and meet people and ensure your deadlines are kept, and very important, My experience of working from home it's the past 2 months, and although there was, how can I say, not much to do in comparing to what we do now, but yes, I kept on keeping a discipline in waking up at the office hour, trying to maintain a rhythm. It has been very positive also to know yourself. I mean, I've learned a few things from myself, in and it helped me to think of in my strategy in the future. I mean, there is not only negative things about for me for working from home, and because but you need to keep this discipline. That's very important. Maintain your deadlines, and if you are managing a team who is working from home, it's very important to keep engaging with them. You know, maintain at least a regular meeting with them, a Zoom meeting once a week at least. Follow up, you know, assign tasks, but make sure you follow up regularly on their assignment. You know, keep on engaging with them. Don't leave them alone thinking that they can do. No, they also need to see you and exchange ideas with you on regular basis. So this is my small experience of working from home.
All right. And just I think last one before we run out of time. I read in the article, Molood, you mentioned that we shouldn't apply the same format or the way we do things in the office when we are applying it to remote working or to people or teams working from home. So from the employee's point of view, how do we maintain productivity or at least ensure that something gets done or to the way that we would like them to be done?
Maybe I'll answer
First
that.
of all, go ahead, Simon. Go ahead.
From an employee's point of view, I think one of the basic things when we did was trust. We had to trust our employees to do what they did, and they were also concerned. Now, this COVID also brought a few reactions. It brought the team together. It brought the whole team together, and we had to depend on each other. We didn't know what the future was like, but we knew we could communicate through the internet and working at home. Everybody did their part. We looked at servers, fine. And that was a good thing. But what amazing that came out of it was, I noticed groups of people came together and started helping out each other. Oh, that was amazing. I hardly know this guy, and this guy packs his food, go and help those who didn't have food. That was amazing. And the amazing thing, he was doing it online. He wanted to find out where all these people who didn't, he found out. And so it had its very good points as well. So the working from home, the internet, remote, helped many Malaysians throughout the period of the COVID-19. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Molood.
So I just want to add to what Simon already said and what Tristan already said. I want to touch upon something that hasn't been said, and that is the communication between the people that creates that productivity. So from both the leader's perspective to the employees and from employees to the leader and employees to each other, one of the things that we need is clarity and explicitity. When we work from an office every day, there is a lot of knowledge that only exists in someone's head. And we know that that person has the answer. We know that whenever we need that knowledge, we can just go to that person and ask the question, and that person is just going to give it to us. When you work remotely, because you need to prefer asynchronous communication to synchronous, one of the main habits that we need to change is to bring all of these things from our heads into a piece of paper or a piece of digital paper, a task management system, or whatever system that you use to keep track of your work, and making sure that all the information about the work is in one place. Everyone knows what that place is, and everyone has understood how to access that information. So first and foremost, we need to be clear about what we write. It shouldn't be like, check the kitchen. It should be like, check the kitchen for this and that and that. It should be very, very clear what the person is supposed to do. And also make sure that you have explicit agreements between each other, what you expect of your employee, what your employees expect of you, what is a good response time to an email, for example. Like, that's something we never talk about, because if the person doesn't respond in the time we want, we would just walk to their office and ask them the question that we already sent. But now that the only means of communication is written and it's async, we need to have those conversations and make sure that explicit agreements are in place. So yeah, it's a little awkward at first, but as soon as you put them there, things flow so much more smoothly. And the magic that Simon was just talking about, seeing people stepping up happens. So as leaders, one of the things we need to do is what I said, create clarity, structure, and make sure that agreements are explicit. And also assume that people that are working for you and working with you are smart, responsible adults.
And okay, I think that's very interesting. Smart, responsible adults, and that's something that I think I don't know, but I think in the Malaysian, at least in the Malaysian environment, that's something that is going to be a bit hard because people don't generally trust their employees to do a good job without someone looking over their shoulders. And I'm not sure. I think some industries are better at this, and some need constant monitoring, and some need constant interaction with each other. And this can be done online or face to face. And I think I would be interested to know what is the trends or the data in the Asian perspective. I think there's a lot of data in the European, in the American perspective on working from home and remote working. But in our part of the world, interestingly, I read an article saying that a lot of people who work remotely, they're Europeans or Americans, or they actually come to this part of the world, to Asian countries, and they stay here for months while they're doing their work. So they stay in Bali, or they like I think Molood, you mentioned this, and that's a very good example, because we do get a lot of people who actually come to Borneo, to Sarawak or Sabah, and they stay in a resort because, well, they can afford it, because the exchange rate is sometimes ridiculous.
Return to nature.
Yeah, and yeah, because they want to return to nature, and they come to this part of the world, and they're working remotely, doing blogging or programming or designing or something. And yet here we are in this part of the world, we don't do that. We don't go to another country and still work for a company. So that's something interesting that I would love to see if there's any data on that, or if we could explore that, because we just don't know what do people want out there, unless we ask our staff, what do you want to do? Do you want to work from home? Are you comfortable? So I think that's something.
I think what is happening.
Yep.
One of the trends that I've seen happen, at least in the IT industry, is outsourcing to that part of the world. But those people who are, technically they're working remotely because their counterparts are in another country, but they collocate in an office and then work with those other people who are in an office. The connection between them, it is remote work. They need to apply the remote work practices to be able to be effective, to be able to collaborate and create together. But somehow the idea that each individual can also be in a different location has been lost in us. I would love to see that data as well that you're mentioning.
I think maybe sooner or later, if your company can expand to this part of the world and maybe enlighten us on this part, I think because you're in this, you're in remote working industry, so you could be the one telling us what's happening in our part of the world in terms of remote working or working from home. And okay, we did have a question from YouTube, which was talking about what you guys think would be good to invest in terms of skills for your staff to be able to work remotely. And you mentioned about time management, discipline. Are there any other soft skills that you think could be invested in terms of, well, from an HR point of view, you would like to do some training before you let them loose working remotely or working from home? Any Simon, maybe you would like to add on to this?
Yeah, you see, as we change, I think what we need to get from employees and also train them is a mindset change. Things are not going to be the same as before. That needs to be put in as well. Employers, as I said, need to be more trusting, and employees also need to be investing their employees on data, not just give me lip service, give me data to look at, and show me teach them even how to look at profits and loss. So much so in terms of HR, well, we are not just HR doing the hiring and firing or whatever. We become business partners towards the organization. So that's important. And so even in HR, technology is changing, mindsets are changing. We have the MNC companies where the HR are working from the home. I was talking to one director of HR from Carlsberg, and she just works only one day. She goes to the office. The 4 days she's at home with the children, and that's moving. So I think we need to invest into training, reskilling our people, changing them to the mindset. The future is going to change. Nothing alarming. You're not going to lose your jobs. You reskill yourselves so that you'll be better and relevant in the future.
Yep.
In,
Yep. Sorry, Tristan, go ahead.
in that sense, there is a lot of in the training field. This is an area which, to me, will be very popular at home, because today, with the IT, with the social media, our staff, our employee, and all the employee of any company can be trained at home during their free time. And it is something that I see developing a lot, even among my own employee, and some are very creative. Some department heads have been very creative recently in creating a Facebook page of their own department, in which they are loading training modules that they have filmed for their own staff, and their staff can watch this training module at home, or during their free time, or during their break. So this is where I see an evolution that could go very fast in the world.
Yeah, Molood, in terms of the clients that you've dealt with, any other skills that you saw that they had to invest in before they could go into remote working or working from home?
Well, before the pandemic, yes, we worked strategically with change management. Going from co-located to remote work is just like any other change management. It requires heavy involvement of the leadership. It requires a mindset shift and training for the leaders before even we get to the employees, because they need to change the way they lead, the way they evaluate. Like right now, from an HR perspective, a lot of companies have performance reviews that happen once or twice a year, and they have different criteria, and they don't allow failure. Like if you fail, you have done something wrong, and you might actually risk not getting that raise that you've been waiting for the whole year. So one of the main shifts that is happening is how we evaluate people's performance in this new leadership style, in this new leadership paradigm. So as we say, the fish rots from the head, it also heals from the head. I want to say that we need to invest heavily on how our leaders are behaving, how they are setting the examples. Is it okay for people to fail in the organization? Do we see failure as failure, or do we see it as a learning opportunity? So I know that in HR, Simon, you probably know this better than me. We talk about creating learning organizations. How do we do that? It's a lot about the culture. It's how we change the culture, and that only happens by changing the way that we lead.
So it should be top down from the leadership, actually. Leadership is the one pushing, not leaving it to HR to get things done. In most times, they leave it to HR.
Exactly. Yep. I like that. And I think
it's not a one-man's job.
Correct. And I think it's also not just HR or just the leader. It's a whole culture that you need to change. The whole team needs to be in tandem, and they need to have the same mindset. So some might be working in the office and some at home, and they need to understand, asynchronous communication, or things that they might not get immediately when they ask a question, to get an answer immediately, or they're willing to wait a bit more for answers. Okay, I think time's up. We've done 1 hour, and I try not to go beyond that because people get edgy, and it's not good practice to get people sit in front of their PCs for very long. Thank you very much to all the speakers for being with us today, for your insights. Thank you, Molood, for spending time. You're very, very busy. I know that. And I hope you expand to this part of the world, so in future we'll get more information about remote working, and we have this culture that accepts this And well, sometimes it's not just us. If we're working remotely, our clients need to understand that as well. Our partners need to also understand that we're working remotely, so that when they Zoom with us, they're not alarmed to see that we're in our room Zooming with them. Yeah, so I look forward to having this culture of remote working or working from home. In fact, I think in our company, we are actually trying to implement that. Not the whole thing, because we are event organizers. We have to be on site when the event happens, but during planning and in some parts of the planning stage. And thank you to all our viewers, our attendees who ask questions, who are with us, and who's with us now. I think it's dinner time now. I'm sure they're watching while having dinner. And look forward to seeing you guys again in 2 weeks. So that's 2 weeks from here. We'll have the next Tuesday Talk live by Place Borneo. So that's that. Thank you very much. See you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey,
See you all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice meeting you all.
Have a
Thank you.
great night.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day ahead, Molood.
Yeah. Molood. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Mona.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.